Thank you for watching this Fringe Academy recording. You can view all videos and resources from past Fringe Academies on the Fringe Academy resources page of our website. You can also book free tickets for any upcoming Fringe Academies by going to the What's On section.
Thanks, Cameron, and good evening, everybody. I work with Crowdfunder. We are UK-based crowdfunding platform. I've got a few slides we're going to run through over the next kind of 30 minutes, just talking a little bit about what crowdfunding is, why you should crowdfund, what to think about when crowdfunding, and a little bit about how you go about setting up your crowdfunding campaign. And there'll be time for questions at the end as well. So let's crack on. We are Crowdfunder. We're a crowdfunding platform which exists to help tackle society's challenges by making ideas happen. We love working with people who've got a great idea and want to get support to make their idea come to life. We've helped projects raise coming up for £250 million through the platform over the last 8 or 9 years or so. And we cover all kinds of different types of projects, from charities to businesses to individuals. Anyone can come on the platform really and use it as a way to raise money. What does make us a bit different to other crowdfunding platforms like Just Giving or Space Hive or others you might have come across, is that we are a rewards-based crowdfunding platform. So we always like to work with projects who have things that they can offer back to their supporters as a return for the financial contribution. So a little bit more like the kind of Space Hive, like the Indiegogo Kickstarter type model, both US-based platforms. In that, we love to see when projects can offer things back to those people that want to support those ideas or initiatives. And sometimes people struggle a little bit with rewards, but generally I think for you, the kind of projects you might be looking at running, arts and creative projects, usually have some really fantastic opportunities for rewards that you can give to people through the process. Here's an example of a band we worked with last year, in 2020, sorry, God, time flies, doesn't it? So this is a Scottish band called Nos. They wanted to crowdfund for their new album. And so they came up with a really nice suite of rewards, from £8 for a digital download through to much higher amounts offering things like a bespoke cover for your a cover of a song for you, even your own song written for you as well, and kind of mid-level rewards offering a bit of their time, so a personalized one-to-one music lesson from one of the band. So it could be stuff that you're offering, the album, obviously, a download of the album, but it could also be your time that you convert into cash as well, or time of other people that you know. So that's just one example. We've got loads and loads and loads of really good creative project examples on Crowdfunder. What I would always say is have a look at how other people have done it before. Take all their best ideas, copy them, and replicate it. You often don't need to just reinvent the wheel and start from scratch. Look at what other people have done. You'll notice on these rewards here, you can see how many were claimed. So 63 of 80, because you can put a number on the amount that you want to offer. So at the point, I don't know if the project is closed when I copied these, but yeah, 63 people bought the album there, so that was obviously really popular. And 2 people at that point had paid to have their own tune written for them as well. So, and at £150, that's a really good value reward to get people giving higher amounts. Why crowdfund? Something really important to think about. Why crowdfunding? If you go into crowdfunding just because you want the cash, you're missing a big part of what crowdfunding can do for you. Crowdfunding is just far more than the money, and can bring much wider benefits. So some of those may be validation of your idea. If it's a new show, a new album, something a little bit different, if you crowdfund it, you get feedback from your supporters and the public quite quickly as to whether there's appetite for it. Do they actually want that or not? Could save yourself a lot of time. We do see projects that come on the platform, they think they've got a great idea, the crowd don't say it is, in which case, you can go back to the drawing board, rethink, tweak, maybe just pull it completely if you don't think there's appetite for it. You fail quickly, and move on to the next thing. If the crowd do like it, that's incredible, for people's confidence. We see how people grow in confidence through the crowdfunding process when people do pledge, and the money starts coming through, comments start coming through from people saying what a good idea it is, how they can't wait to be a part of it or see it develop. And that's all useful information you can take to other funders, to potential promoters, etc. as well, to show that people really like the idea. You're going to be raising awareness when you crowdfund. You're basically running a marketing campaign. So it's a really good opportunity to create a bit of a buzz, create a bit of interest around what you're doing, and perhaps get noticed by a wider audience. We know from research done by Nesta into creative projects crowdfunding, on the platform a few years ago, that 33% of the money pledged to projects came from people who'd never heard of that organization before. So it's a really great way to build awareness and to grow your network. It's a great way to gather advocates. So through the crowdfunding campaign, you'll work out who's really engaged, who's commenting, who's sharing the most, who's actually meaningfully connected to what you're doing. They will be the ones who are retweeting, sharing your posts, telling others about it. So it's a really great way of working out who those people are, and perhaps building some stronger connections with them as well. I'm pretty sure you'll probably learn some new skills as you go in creating and running your crowdfunding campaign. We know from surveys that we do of people who've used the platform that they gain skills in using social media, in fundraising, in marketing, etc. These are all useful skills that you can take into other aspects of your work as well. And lastly, it's a great opportunity to reach out to other funders and raise money from additional sources. So we have match funding available on the Crowdfunder platform, and when you set up your crowdfunding project, you will be presented with options on the site. But we also see on the platform that people start a crowdfunding campaign and other funders will pledge to their campaign as well, be that small local trusts, other foundations, companies, corporates, philanthropists. It's really great to get them to pledge onto your crowdfunding campaign as well. Make it really visible. It'll be there for everyone else to see, and that will all give endorsement to what you're doing as well. So always think about these things. Think about what you're going to get out of the process that's not just about the money. Often when I speak to people after they've crowdfunded, they'll say to me, crowdfunding was great. Yeah, we got the money. But the best thing about it was something else. And it could be that someone reached out to them and has now become a trustee on their board, or a company reached out to them and said they want to become a long-term sponsor or offer them office space. All these kinds of things happen. And actually, those are the things that become seemingly more memorable to people after they've crowdfunded. So how does crowdfunding work? well, you've got to get started. I watched a lovely little video about from a sports club in Northern Ireland, and they started it saying the hardest thing about crowdfunding was getting started. And I think that that's the case for everybody. It might feel a little bit daunting. It's a little bit different to writing a grant application. But the Crowdfunder platform is really built to make that journey as easy as possible. So I'd urge you, if you are looking and thinking about crowdfunding, click on Start Crowdfunding and start setting up your campaign. The platform will walk you through it, and it'll seem much easier broken down into the steps that it is on crowdfunding than it can do at the start. So you're going to start the process, start your journey, create a page that tells your story, the story about you, your organization, and what you're looking specifically to raise money for. You're going to add things like your rewards and think about how they might help to engage people as well. And that's the kind of nuts and bolts, the things you've got to do. How you then get funded is the tricky bit. What do you do when you go live? A lot of people focus very much on creating a lovely page, getting that all ready, go live, and then wonder why the money's not coming through. You really need to have a strategy in place to start sharing your crowdfunder in a kind of initially quite a controlled way that's really planned, that you've got pledges lined up before you go out much more widely. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's where the magic really starts to happen. So when you're setting up your crowdfunding campaign, yes, the page and the video and stuff like that is important, but do remember that what actually gets you funded is how you share that and how you tell people about it. So I'd say you need equal amounts of weighting on those two aspects. Yeah, the prep, get everything set up, but also how you're going to market it and share it is equally. And sometimes even more important, you sometimes see really simple crowdfunding pages, but people are giving because they've articulated the cause very well and very succinctly. So what we will look at now, a little bit of nuts and bolts about how the platform works, and then we'll look in a bit more detail about some aspects of the process of what you need to go through. Some common questions that always come up on Crowdfunder, always come up when in relation to crowdfunding. What happens if I don't raise all the money? Well, on Crowdfunder, you can set your crowdfunding campaign to be all or nothing. It means what it says. If you set your target, if you don't reach your target, you don't get any money. It all goes back to the people who donated it. It's all automatic in that scenario. It doesn't cost you anything either. It doesn't cost the people who pledged to you either. Their money's just refunded in full. Or you can set a flexible funding target where you keep what you raise. Now, when I ask people, if they're in a room, I say, which would you prefer to do? Everybody says flexible funding, which I can understand, but it's not the most effective way. What you really need to do is think carefully about your target, set it at an amount which is realistic, perhaps ambitious, but realistic, and start with a minimum that you need. So actually what you can do is you set an initial target. You can then have a larger stretch target that you work towards. But once you've reached your initial target, you keep all the money that's been raised. And having an all or nothing target can be really powerful in driving people to pledge. We are all a bit lazy. We're all a bit sheep-like. If we know that your need for my money isn't pressing, i.e. if your target is a flexible funding target, you're not making a compelling case for me to give me your money now. And what will happen is you can tell people the deadline's coming, pledge now, but there's no really strong push to get me to give and give right now. I might think, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll give later. Whereas if you set an all or nothing target, you can run a really strong message that says we need to raise X by Y to do this thing, or it won't happen. And what often happens then is you'll set your all or nothing your target, and you will exceed that because people do give, and they'll give now. And even if you reach your target way before your deadline, it doesn't stop people giving. You think about a packed restaurant doesn't stop people wanting to eat there. They'll queue up if it's really that good. So don't worry that the fact you've hit your target stops people pledging. It won't. They'll still pledge. They still hopefully will want the rewards that you're going to offer as well. And a little bit about fees. We always get asked about fees. Obviously, we need to cover our staff costs and our premises like everybody else. So we do charge some fees. They do change from time to time. So this is what they currently are, but do check on the platform. You will, before you go live, be told exactly what fees you will be paying. And those are deducted from the funding, the money that people pledge to you when it's paid out at the end of your project. So currently the platform fee is 0 for not-for-profits and charities, 5% for profit-making businesses, and there are transaction fees as well levied by our card providers. Again, different rates for charities, slightly lower, 1.9% for charities, plus 20 people pledge, plus VAT, 2.4% for other organisations. So do think about the fees that will be deducted based on your organisation type, and factor those into the total. It's a cost, as much as your costs you'll incur for room hire or equipment hire in running your project or putting on your show. This is a cost. Factor it into the total that you need, so you're covering that as well. We have extra funding. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Match funders who potentially could match fund your project. There may be fees associated with those as well. I doubt many of you will be VAT registered, but obviously VAT's charged and you can claim that back. And people often want to know when will the money come through. We advise 7 working days from when your crowdfunding project closes. It's usually quicker than that, but depends on the bank and the day and bank holidays. So 7 working days, but I usually quicker than that. So just some things that always come up, so we cover those. What we'll look through now is a few the various aspects of running a crowdfunding campaign. We run and offer support based around 3 key aspects. Firstly, planning of the project. Secondly, creating the project, the bit of coming onto the platform, setting up your page, and then lastly, actually running the project. What do you do when you're live and get people to give? We've got guides that you can download. This is all available on our Learn platform as well. There's links at the end of the document, so you'll get those as well. We've actually got a really great online course that you can work through. You don't need to work through all of it. You can dip in and out to the bits that you're puzzled by or want a bit more help with. But we have got loads of great support to help you set up your campaign. So let's look at planning a project. So the first thing we always advise you to do when you're planning a crowdfunding campaign is to do a network map. Think about all the potential people who might support your campaign and start writing it down. I'd suggest doing it on big bits of flip chart paper or similar, or things like a Miro board if you like to work digitally, which is one of those scalable boards that you can make really big. And think about all the different groups and people who might support your crowdfunding campaign. Map them all out in this way. Friends, family, supporters, team, local press, etc. You can then start to think about taking that the step further. So your existing supporters, people on your database already, why might they be interested in pledging money to this crowdfunding campaign? What's going to attract them to it? What rewards might they be particularly interested in that you might want to feature? So you can start thinking about the different groups and the different messages you might use to reach them. You might then look at, if your project's in Brighton, what might interest people in Brighton about your project in particular, and what rewards might they be interested in? So obviously, if you've got tickets at Brighton Fringe, it's likely that more people in Brighton will be attending. So you can then again start to think about different messages and which rewards you might feature when you talk to that different group as well. Local businesses or businesses who you know or work with. Again, that's probably going to be a slightly different offer. What might interest a local business about sponsoring your project or advertising in the brochure? Whatever that might be, have a think about again, the kind of message you might use to reach those businesses, what rewards they might be interested in buying, and how you're going to attract them as well. So it's a really great way to break down your what can feel like quite a kind of nebulous world of supporters out there into specific groups to help you to develop specific messages, imagery, etc., that you're going to use to target each different group. So this is a really great thing to do, a network map, when you're doing anything new, anything that you want to involve people that you need to get public support for. This is a really great way of breaking that down. What you can then do, let's take things like local people and think about how we actually find those people. So Facebook is really great for that. So thinking about Brighton particularly, you might be having a show at the Open Air Theatre, which is in Dyke Road Park. Local to that area, that's the kind of Seven Dials area of Brighton. There's a really big Facebook Seven Dials notice board. It's got, I think, 10,000 people, local people, just on that Facebook group. So that would be a really great way to spread the word to local people, excuse me, about your show. You also might want to do things like just Google relevant news about your work, your show, whatever it is, the location it's based, looking on Google, looking in the news, who's doing similar, which relevant groups have commented, all those different things. Really great ways to work out where those different audiences might be. Similar process on Twitter, search Twitter for people who are talking about what your show is about. If it's got a particular theme, maybe that would be relevant as well. So a little bit of kind of mapping of your network in the digital world, as well as in the real world. So that's a little bit on on the planning of your project. I think other things to think about at this stage would be who is going to help you with your crowdfunding campaign. You can run a crowdfunding campaign yourself, but it does need quite a few different aspects that you might want to think about where you get help, particularly as you start creating the crowdfunding project. What we're looking to do there is set up our page and get the link for that page that is what's going to underpin our sharing and getting people giving. So this is a little snapshot of the Crowdfunder platform. Once you've clicked start crowdfunding, you'll be asked to give various bits of information about you, basic ideas about your project, start building your project page, etc. The process is designed to be hopefully as intuitive as possible. So every time you're asked a question like here, what's the name of your project? There'll be a little note that tells you a bit more about that and things to think about. So here, obviously, so this will be the first thing a potential supporter will see, be clear, be concise, and give it the best possible sense of what you're up to. Any character limits are shown as well. And also at the side of each section, there's a little video and links to more help as well. So The actual process of setting up a page isn't too difficult. If you can upload a photo to Facebook, you've got the technical skills that you need to create a crowdfunding campaign. Eventually through that process, and some people can do this in 10 minutes, you can have a crowdfunding campaign live really quickly. I'd recommend you perhaps take a couple of weeks as your time frame to set up a really good page and share it with people before it goes live, get some feedback. But we're going to work towards having what is a pretty standard really now kind of layout for crowdfunding campaigns. They're all pretty similar. You're going to have your title at the top, some nice images, and hopefully a video at the top of the page. You've got a page of text, then you can break it up with images. You might want to drop more videos in, and obviously showing your rewards as well. Lots of advice available on the page. Things that kind of stand out on this page is quite clean, nice images, lots of people in the image. People do make sure you've got people in your images. The text is broken up. It's got some nice subheadings there, always useful. Don't make text feel too daunting by having big chunks of it. Break it up. If you look at the BBC website, for example, every sentence is generally a paragraph. It's quite spaced out. And headings and bullets and things like that all just go to help with readability and help people to scan more quickly the page and perhaps jump to the bit that they actually want to read. Hopefully you're going to have a video at the top. I would recommend including a video, particularly for creative projects. Bring a flavour of it to life in your video. Keep it quite short. Less than 2 minutes is plenty. My favourite crowdfunding video is actually for a local brewery in Brighton, the Loudshirt Brewery, and it's in 42 seconds. They tell you all about the brewery, who they are, about the beer they create, about their vision for the brewery, the rewards that they've got, and why you should support it. It's great. It's quirky. It brings a smile to your face, and it doesn't take up too much time to watch. So things like that, really powerful in bringing a flavour of your work to people as well. The last thing to think about when setting up your projects are what are you going to offer as rewards? So every project on Crowdfunder can receive donations. But people will pledge more if there are rewards. We saw on those example earlier, some rewards were £150. It's unlikely many people in your supporter network would just donate £150 to your project. But if you can offer something a little bit special, then people will give more significant sums. And they can be quite broad in scope. The obvious things are products, but the problem with offering products is that you have to pay for the product. So you've got to buy those and get them out to people once they've bought them as well. So what are probably more effective and raise more money can be experienced as an event. Things that people can participate in. They might be quite cheap for you to offer. You might be doing it already as part of your work as well. So kind of special tickets, preview tickets, meet the artist, those kinds of things that you can offer as well. They can be really, really powerful. It's another route to get corporate sponsorship as well, if you're approaching businesses who might want to support what you're doing. And also just thanking people. You may have, if what you're looking at is running a show, you might be doing a program, you can offer thanks to everyone in the program, have your name in the program and things like that as well. So loads of different ideas for rewards. Nikki, did you have a question?
No, can you hear me?
No, you were waving.
I'm
I spotted you waving.
Oh, God.
So here's a few more examples.
Sorry, Nikki, we could hear you.
you could. Now you can hear me.
Now we can.
Now we can.
Now you can. Great. Hi, Cameron.
Hi, you all right?
Yeah, thanks for being brave and showing your face. You've given me the confidence too, as well.
That's okay.
But you're all in Brighton.
At the moment, we're in Brighton. Jason, you're in Brighton as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you Brightonians?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
indeed.
Okay, great. I know nothing about crowdfunding, so I've learnt loads already.
Yeah, we've still got a bit to do, so don't worry, there's more to learn.
Great.
So yeah, we talk about rewards. So here's a few examples. A pledge of £5 to get a handwritten postcard thanking you for your support. That's a nice one. I've seen quite a few projects do that, particularly if you're, as an artist, you might have a unique artwork you've created, or it's still from the show, or whatever that might be. You can really tailor that to what you're doing. Scribble a quick thank you. Even better if you can hand deliver them, but obviously postage is a cost to factor in. It's perhaps a little bit cheap, that at £5. I think I'd probably charge more like 10 for that. A colouring book. This was an example done by a museum. It was based on a collection of work which was part of a campaign that they were looking to raise money for to house the new collection. So it was obviously linked to what they were raising money for. That was a nice one. This is one I said about using your time as well. So this project offered a creative consultation. What they were doing, their actual crowdfunding campaign, was to create a gallery space, but a couple of them actually work in the arts and offer services to work alongside artists, kind of management support services. So that's a reward that they offered, to give an hour of their time from an expert creative producer. So you might want to think about the skills that you could offer. If you're anything from workshops, might people want to attend workshops, one-to-one consultations, that kind of thing as well. This one, they'd produced a book. This was actually the book, a limited edition hardback of the book, which they also sent with some tea that had been donated as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be things that you've got. This is where business supporters might help as well. If they got stuff that you could give away, whenever a project is raising funds for something based in an area. So just worked with the table tennis club and the junk food project in Brighton. They went out to their network and said to people, what can you give us? And they got meal vouchers from Etch, the restaurant over in Hove, and stuff like that, who donated that. So rather than giving money, it's a great way for businesses, particularly now in the current climate. It's tough for a lot of businesses. They've not got a lot of cash, but they've got stuff, and it's much cheaper for them to give you stuff. So it could be meals from restaurants, it could be barrels of beer, it could be table tennis rackets, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I've just seen the table tennis thing locally. I'm in Hanover, but it's down in Kemp Town, isn't it?
Yeah, really great
fantastic
project. Yeah, they did really well. So yeah, think about things that you've got, but also others. This is a nice one. This was a project they were looking to refurbish, quite a big project to refurbish an old Victorian bath. But for £100, they offered a backstage tour of the building whilst it was being renovated. So that's quite nice. Normally, as a member of public, you wouldn't be able to go in a building that's being renovated.
No.
But this was an opportunity to do that and get a little kind of behind the scenes tour as well. So those are quite nice. Think about those things that people, it's a bit different for people. So like I say, that might be meet the artists, meet the performers, those kinds of things. seen some nice ones for theatre productions where you could suggest a character name or get yourself written in as one of the characters, or help inform, how a character looks or something like that as well. You imagine that people might, would really enjoy that you get to go along to a play that there's a character named after you, or you've asked that they look like you, that kind of thing.
I'm trying to remember, I can't remember which event it was on now, but there was I remember seeing a crowdfunding reward for having the characters come and visit if you were doing your own party or something like that, having someone do a guest cameo in character as well.
Yeah.
Other things like
that's a good one. Yeah. I've seen absolutely all sorts. At Christmas last year, I paid for the local brass band in the town where I used to live when I grew up, and the brass band I used to play in as a kid. They were looking to raise money because they hadn't been able to perform that year, obviously with COVID. So they were turning up. You could pledge £50 and you got the brass band to rock up outside someone's house, and they played carols for half an hour in my parents' garden. All the neighbours came out. They sent me a little video. It was a lovely, clear winter night, and it was beautiful for £50. I thought, how lovely was that? So yeah, be creative with your rewards. And again, that's something, just look on Crowdfunder and see what people are offering. There's so many different ideas. I've seen some crazy ones as well, on particularly the sports projects. So if you imagine a rugby club crowdfunding, they say to all the players and all the members, right, what do you do? What can you give us? And we've had, I saw a 1-ton bag of aggregates you could claim. Car washes, the rugby players doing budgie smuggler car washes, haircuts, everything,
I guess, and that sort of scale of things, when people start getting involved, anything.
And that's it. This is what we found, particularly through COVID. A lot of the people, like the sports clubs, community groups, crowdfunding was a great opportunity to engage with people when they couldn't engage through the activity. Sports clubs were shut, so they did use it as an opportunity to really rally people around. And I think that's just the model you should be using for your crowdfunding campaign anyway. I think we really saw it being effective, and people really picked up on that through COVID as an alternative to what they were doing. But it sits alongside what you're doing anyway. It's just another way to engage people and involve them. And
no, it hadn't occurred to me before that what you were saying earlier about sort of getting feedback, using it as a way to get feedback. It hadn't occurred to me that Crowdfunder could be used for that.
Yeah, and I mean, at all stages, we're just I think we're done on the rewards, but so we're on to the kind of running bit. But once you've created your campaign on Crowdfunder, you do get what we call a preview link. So you can start sharing it before you actually click go live and actually see whether people, and I would always recommend you do that. Get friends, family, people who supported you previously, choose a handful of them and send them the link and say, here's my draft crowdfunding campaign. What do you think? Would you give? Which rewards would you buy? Which rewards look attractive?
Can I just tell you briefly why I've rocked up today?
Can we do that at the end bit?
Yes.
We'll just go through the next bit, and then we will have lots of time. Don't worry. For
how long are we here for? How much time are you giving?
Well, we certainly got till, I think, I can't remember how long we'd said the session was, but I've certainly got.
I think we slated until 6:30, but I mean, whatever we've got. Whatever we've got.
Well, I think we can, definitely go through until 6:15. If you want. So let's go through the next section. It's about kind of, you've got your campaign, you've hopefully sent it around to some people. They've said it's good, they like it. What do you do then? You need to think about a really strong marketing plan, and cover as many different channels as possible. In the early days, email is probably really useful. to get those people around you and close to you giving. You want to get people giving who know you giving as early as possible. Ideally, what you want to do is make sure that within the first day of being live, you get at least 10% or 20% of your target. So that's going to need some kind of personal conversations, and those people that you sent the preview to say, it's now live, you said you'd pledge, please pledge, perhaps getting on the phone as well. What you want to do is make sure that when that page goes out public, so when you go on social media, in effect, you're going more public then. It might be you've got a private Facebook group. You could share in that first. But what you don't want is to send your campaign when you've got one supporter and £5 raised. You don't want the public to see it at that point. It's a bit like an empty restaurant. If you see an empty restaurant, you walk past. If you see a restaurant that's got a few people in, you'll look at the menu. If you see go past the one that's really busy, you'll stop and you'll want to go in and you'll try and get a table. So it's that kind of thing. And it comes back to that point I said earlier, we're all a bit sheep-like. So actually, if we see something that looks popular, we'll go, oh, that must look good because other people think it's good. So I'll just pledge, I'll give some money. So that's where you want to be when you go public. So start with people closer to you, works into social media. It should be on your website up front, pretty soon after you go live. Things like print and newspapers can be useful, and sometimes a little bit hard to get people from being in physical media to being online, but most local newspapers are now online as well. So print can be useful for those kind of geographically based projects. So if you're doing a show in a park, then you might want to put up some posters around the park if you can, or in the park cafe, that kind of thing. Excuse me. Events, you might want to think about doing a launch event. That might be quite a nice way to kick it off, or just to come and meet us event, and then you can talk to people. You might have people in your network who perhaps aren't online, aren't as social media savvy, so you could invite them along to a physical event, tell them about what you're doing, show them the video, have some iPads available, help them if they want to make a pledge, that kind of thing as well. And word of mouth is still really, really powerful as well. So particularly where you might have those rewards that you're focusing on businesses and those kinds of things, do talk to people, particularly if you think you've got some potentially larger supporters as well. What you want to work towards is having a nice kind of timeline like this, so you can see how it progresses through. Start your sharing focused around your immediate team, friends, family, existing supporters, your core group of supporters. Get them to pledge, get them to validate what you're doing, then spread out to perhaps partners, start using Facebook, etc. Some campaigns, if it goes well, you might be up to here on day 2. The money might start coming in, just go and you just keep it rolling. Sometimes you might need a bit more of the warm-up phase, but it is a phased approach. So things like when your campaign goes out to the press, and then might reach a bigger audience, you want to be have as much traction as possible at that point. That's why that comes a bit later in the process, but it might not necessarily be at a kind of week 4 where we've got it here. We'd normally advise you to run your crowdfunding campaign for 4 weeks. The timing of these things might spread, and I think you do need to build in a bit of flexibility, particularly when it comes to press, and if you manage to get any radio or TV, those kind of things tend to slip anyway. So do build in some flexibility into your plan. But that's the kind of plan that you want over that period of time, thinking about all those different ways to engage people. Whilst your campaign's live, you'll get feedback from the platform. So you get a project dashboard And this will show you things like, it looks a bit different. I need to update these. We changed how the graphs look, but they say the same thing. Show you each day how much has been pledged, so you can track progress. Also shows you things like page views per day as well. So what we want to see on these two graphs is, we get a nice spike on the first day in page views, and that brings a spike in the amount raised as well. Those should map onto each other. Hopefully, whenever you're doing social media or any marketing activity, you'll see a spike in your page views and a spike in your pledges. What you're looking for, though, is the real peaks, and then you can work out, on day 25, what did we do there? Because on the 25th, we got quite a significant amount of pledges, but if you look at the number of page views, that wasn't so high. So did we target particular people on that day? You get this information in real time, so it's really powerful. You can learn really quickly. You could put out a tweet or something on social media, see the response it gets, work out which, that's why we need have different messages. Go back to that networking plan when we thought about different groups, different messages, and see which ones are really working and do more of that. We'll generally see this kind of trajectory on the bottom that you can see on that graph. A lot of interest at the start and a lot at the end, goes quiet in the middle generally. So, be ready for that. Be ready for it to be quiet. The middle 2 weeks will be quieter. You still got to keep plugging away. That's a good time to perhaps introduce some new rewards. So maybe don't make all your rewards and your offers live immediately. Have some that you hold back and then you introduce them as a kind of special offer or a limited release, that kind of thing. And do make sure you've got lots of different messages throughout your campaign. So, 4 weeks is a long time to be sharing the same image, the same video. You can also take some of the feedback from the project. So people leave comments when they pledge. So you can take those, use those on social media and thank people as well. So for that marketing plan, throughout those 4 weeks, we want to see a really good mix of different messages, different images, different messages and images will resonate with different people, and they're all opportunities to get different people pledging. So as I say, we've got lots of help available for you in our online learning hub. We're doing regular more generic webinars, not necessarily focused on creative projects or arts projects, but we do a weekly webinar or drop-in session where you can go and ask one of our expert coaches any questions that you've got, talk to other people as well. Once you start setting up your project, you'll get emails that are tailored to where you are in the process as well. So if you haven't completed the project description page, we'll probably ping you an email to say, here's some tips for completing the project description. If you haven't added a video, you'll get an email that says, here's some tips and examples of a really great video. So once you're in there, it's that thing we say, click get started, and you'll start getting the help that you need. The Learn course is great as well. You might want to work all the way through it, but you can see as well, it's all little bite-sized exercises. So once you register for the course, you can either just work through it in sequence, or you can say, I'm about to do my video, let me just look at the course and what it says about videos or about rewards. So that's really useful as well. And that's all free for everyone to use, or just there on the website. Links are here, so when you get the slides, you'll get the links to those as well. And do look at other projects. That's my top tip. And we know on the platform, people who've looked at other projects are more successful. So do your research, find projects that are in the geographical area you're based, but also in the, thematically around what you're doing. And we've got, if it's whether it's performance or workshops or training or whatever it is you're going to be offering, we'll have loads of examples as well.